You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
This is weird.
Yeah,
okay.
that was my first question, Marilyn. Is this surreal?
It is weird, and I guess part of the reason I haven't, left is I don't know how to. How do you do that? You just one foot in front of the other, and
Yeah. So how many years has it been at KSAT?
39 at KSAT, almost 39.
39 at KSAT.
yeah.
How many in broadcast?
Close to 45, well, 44. I started out in newspaper for 2 years.
Okay.
And then thought I'd try TV and
That worked
kept
out.
going. And I guess it worked out.
Okay, so what got you into journalism in the first place?
I just liked writing. It was one of my options. I really didn't know going into college. I liked architecture, I liked art kind of things, math. But I got a part-time job typesetting the university newspaper. And I thought, I can do this. And it really got interesting, and I kind of started editing people's stories. And then in a couple of years, I was editor of the university newspaper.
Yeah.
And kind of started out, I just liked the whole idea of digging for information, whether it's uncovering something or finding things that are useful information, and putting it together in a story format that people can consume in, a minute or two or 12 or, an hour, however long it takes to read or watch. And I just I wouldn't say I fell into it because it was in the back of my mind, but I don't think I thought I could. Being rather, introverted and shy, it didn't seem like something up my alley.
Yeah.
But then I thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
So
you were at newspapers to begin with. What was your first TV job?
in Waco.
In Waco?
Yes.
Did I know this? I feel like maybe we talked about this.
Probably.
What station?
KWTX.
Okay, KWTX. Okay, I was
Yeah.
KCEN.
Yes.
So you were in Waco for
Yeah.
first TV job.
Yes, and I had actually applied for, it was a magazine show called PM Magazine, and I applied for that. I didn't get that, but the news director had a soft spot for newspaper reporters, and he hired me. And Howard Ball, he's since passed away, wonderful man, chain smoker, stapled hem in his pants. We had the manual typewriters going. It was, really it feels like the olden days.
Yeah.
But that's where I started. And my first story I wrote, the producer says, "That's great for a newspaper."
Oh.
And I went, oh. And nothing against newspaper. It's just a different style.
Oh, very different.
Different style of writing. So I guess I learned quickly.
Yeah. So were you a general assignment reporter in that first?
Police and courts,
Oh, police and
actually.
courts.
Yeah,
Okay.
Really wasn't a lot of crime in Waco, Texas in that time. There was some. And so legal system, and then general assignments. Everybody did everything.
Yeah.
And in fact, we would pair up with a partner and shoot stories for each other. So
Oh.
whoever worked with me, I'm sorry, they got the short end of the stick. Those cameras were heavy. You had the recorder, the giant tripod, the lights, and then yeah. Shooting was not my thing. I could put it on a tripod and shoot, but I couldn't follow the action and focus and that. So,
Yeah, I don't know how those sports guys do that.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
So
what year did you come to KSAT?
1985, October 1985, and I had worked in Austin, between Waco, then it was Austin for just a summer, and then I came here. Jim Boyle had called me and asked if I would come work here. Sure. And
So did you apply here, or did he just find
called
you?
me. He called me, yeah. And so I came to KSAT, walked in the back door for my 1:30 shift, and was on the air at 5 o'clock reporting, and 15,000 stories later, here we are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you started out here. Did you have a beat, certain kind of reporting, or?
General assignments
Yeah.
off the bat, which was great. A little bit of everything, a lot of, spot news or, weather related things, the tornadoes and the hurricanes and the meetings, the Alamo Dome meetings every Monday night, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then, I kind of had two careers here, I think. I had, the first half was the working 50, 60-hour weeks doing all the big stories, all the things, go everywhere, do everything. It was great. I had great opportunities, and anchored for a few years, 5, 6 o'clock news, and then some investigative reporting, and then my daughters were born, and life changed. Yep. So kind of made a switch there to fewer hours, and then got into kind of the consumer niche, which I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Everybody kind of, has that evolution of their career, right? Especially at a place like this where people, they stay. You start out as one thing. I know I've only been here 12 years, but it's changed over time.
Well, your roots grow, and I don't think when I came here I expected to stay. I thought, well, I'll move on to a bigger market. But then by the time those opportunities come up, your roots have grown. Whether you get married, you have a family, kids are in school, and then you become more rooted, more comfortable, and you just become part of the city and really like the place where you are, and the desire to move on and move up wanes.
Yeah.
And becoming satisfied with where you are, and your purposes change and your priorities change.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't expect to stay this long here, but I'm glad that I did.
But there's so much value in having such a knowledge of a place, of a city. I mean, you've seen San Antonio change over the decades. There's so much history that you have that is valuable to us when we decide, here's how we're going to cover the next big thing that's happening,
Yeah, I remember reporting on, the building of River Center Mall, the opening of SeaWorld, the opening of Fiesta Texas, or just when these things were on the drawing board.
Right.
A big deal to this city for several years was the closing of Kelly Air Force Base, and Brooks as well, and covered that for several years, and that was satisfying. To be able to follow something like that was of so much importance to the people of the city, because it was, such a large employer.
I think Kelly was the number one employer in the city,
right? And went back to, World War I.
Yeah.
And so that was really challenging and yet fun in a weird way, I guess. But to do something that was important to the people of this city, keep track of that.
Are there some stories that you will always say, these were my most memorable? I hate to say favorite, because sometimes that has a different meaning, right?
Well, I think some of them that are the most memorable are the ones that were challenging in ways, like you're out in the heat for 12 hours or at the scene, at a aftermath of a hurricane or tornado, and you're just dealing with elements. But the ones that I think have stuck with me the most are the people that I've remained in contact with. And I don't think it's coincidental that I would say there's probably, I hate to narrow it to 3, but 3 are top of mind, and they all focus on children. And I had done a story in 1989. A little girl named Alyssa Smith was going to be the first living donor liver transplant recipient, her mother the donor. And went and interviewed them. It was Thanksgiving, and they were so kind. They're just the sweetest family, and have followed with them over the years. In fact, I saw them at Christmas, and she, Alyssa was 1 at the time when I interviewed her. Interviewed a 1-year-old, and she now has kids of her own. And so that sticks with you. And then that sort of prompted an interest in organ transplantation, and so a family allowed us to follow them through the entire process. Their son needed a transplant to save his life. And from the moment they got the call, they called us, we got a call, and we threw our things in the car and drove to Houston, where the surgery was, and followed through there. And wonderful people. Sadly, he did not survive. the little boy. It was devastating.
He didn't survive the surgery?
He didn't survive the surgery. He survived the surgery, but there were complications after. And so we had come back, and so we put that aside. And she called me and said, let's proceed with the story, because had there been more awareness and more organs available, he could have had another chance. And so that probably is just the biggest one that has stuck with me. Yeah. And then the third one, another wonderful family, the Millers had a little boy, and the father had been a nurse, Army nurse, during the Gulf War. And their son was born with some pretty severe birth defects. And so we followed through that, and the thinking was that it was exposure to toxic chemicals. And there were other families that we found in Texas and around the country with these seemingly odd birth defects, but they had this commonality. And so I have remained in contact with them. And in fact, the boy at the time, he came to the station one day for a tour several years ago, so that was nice. So those are the ones that really, I think, had, there's a lot of memorable ones, but those are the ones that I think, really I keep in my heart.
Yeah. And I know so many people, when they hear what we do, they say, oh my gosh, there's so much bad news. It's so much heartache. And there's heartache in the stories that you said are your most memorable. Mm-hmm. But why have you kept doing this despite that? Why have you felt like those are stories that needed to be told?
Well, I think that's exactly it. They need to be told, because how would people know? Maybe it just reaches one person or 10 people, and somebody, it causes somebody to do something, or it just opens their eyes to an issue they had not thought about. And not every story is going to affect, thousands of people, but it might help a couple. Yeah. And so day after day, it's sort of a cumulative thing. Yeah. So, but not, there's lots of days in there that was, different. Every day's different, and I think that's what's been interesting part of it.
I love when people ask, "Oh, do you have a busy day today?" I'm like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
What are you doing today? I don't know.
We'll find out.
But it's been fun. I mean, what other job can you, talk to presidents and follow the Pope and meet George Strait. I mean,
you've done all those things?
I've done all those things, and so that's been great. And I really enjoyed, just the opportunities. I'm really grateful for so many opportunities to just think back. And I don't know if at the time I realized how cool it was, but I do now. It was like neat that to be on the floor of a political convention, which. We had covered the Republican convention in New Orleans years ago, and we would have to hand off passes. Like all the different stations we work with, you'd have a floor pass for a certain amount of time, so you'd only so many people at a time. So you're waiting in the back, waiting for your turn for the pass. And we had wanted, this was when George Bush was getting nominated, and George W. Bush was going to nominate him. Put the Texas votes to put him over the top, and we wanted to be up at the front for that. Well, it came time to go out there, and there was a big marching band blocking from the back of the Superdome to the front, and so we just, the photographer is now my husband. We just bent down and we just went through that marching band, excuse me, all the way to the front, and we got there. So, but fun things like that. There's a lot of fun, just weird things that happen, So.
Well, we need to talk about that other life-changing event that KSAT led you to, your husband.
Yes.
I don't even know the story. How did you and Dave meet other than just working here?
Just working here. He was a photographer. And I was a reporter, and we went out on assignments, and we, became friends. And then after about 4 years later, we got married. So that was, a little while ago, 1990. 1990. Oh my gosh. So, but that's a little bit different. It's, you don't try not to take work home. It's hard.
Yeah. How does that? Does it work well?
No, it's you listen. and
Yeah.
you say, okay, we're done with that.
We're going to talk about something else.
So, yeah.
Like this to-do list.
Yeah, I like the
Something like
yes,
that.
the honeydew,
Weekend plans,
the honeydew
right?
list. Yeah,
You've seen this business change a lot.
a few formats.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen it change a lot. So
Yeah.
what's that been like for you to just think about how things were done when you started versus where we are now?
Well, we had typewriters. They were electric, at least, and no cell phones. We had one big mobile brick phone that if you were going out of town, you could take that with you. But no cell phones. You did things on telephone and by foot. And for several years, I did the behind the kitchen door. And so I'd drive to the health department, go in, dig through the papers, and then come back, and we'd go do that, and then put it on the air in a few hours. And now things are accessible by computer, which is great. But I think I'm gonna sound old, you miss out on some of the interaction and the inner workings of things. So I guess that's the difference. It's just things are more technological now. We went from, I did not work in film. I did work, the big tapes, the little half-inch tape, and then the little discs, and now the little bitty, digital. So lots of formats. And now things are continuing to change, all the multi-platform.
Oh gosh,
and
yes.
and so I think I've reached the point where it's like my train stops here.
Marilyn, no. I mean, with a 39-year career here, you've had to think about the day you leave before.
I think about it, but I just couldn't grasp that thought. Like, what does that look like? Well, I'll cry, and I don't want that. And so I just kept working. When my kids were growing up, I was fortunate in that I did work part-time for the last 20 years. And so the paycheck was smaller, but that's okay, because I never missed a volleyball game or an orchestra concert or an awards ceremony, and was always there for dinner, and that was there were sacrifices, but I want to say big sacrifice, but choices to be made. And so I look back and go, I then kind of missed out on continuing to do the biggest stories, but I think I got much more in that my priority was being there as much as I could, and I was fortunate that I was able to do that. Not everyone's able to do that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. So
what's next after this?
What's next? I will continue to, I think, write, do some freelance writing opportunities, because I enjoy that. I enjoy words and putting things together that tell a story, whether it's serious, funny, whatever, written word or with pictures. I enjoy that, and so probably some of that, but then just the sense of freedom to go wherever, whenever.
Right.
I can go to Costco on a Tuesday. No, on a school night. Wow. No, I'll have time to go see my parents more.
Yeah.
They're in Arlington. And so just being able to, it's a 4.5, 5-hour drive. And so being able to do that more often is important right now.
And you are such a good writer.
Oh, you're sweet.
I don't know, and people, when they see your stories, maybe they don't think about that. They're thinking about the information that you're sharing with them. But I feel like that's what makes people pay attention.
I hope so. I hope it's subtle for the most part. It really has meant a lot. There have been, over the years, occasionally someone will call. Maybe it's someone I know. Maybe it's a complete stranger who will call and just comment about a line in a story or just one little tiny thing. And you think, wow, thank you, for noticing, because sometimes you feel like you do it for, who am I doing this for? That it does matter. And so, those compliments over the years, are special.
And your consumer reports, those are things that everybody pays attention to.
I-
You know, I mean, talking about, I know the ones I've paid attention to about what are alternatives to the nonstick pans.
Yeah.
I thought about that one. Anything having to do with like recalls on kids stuff.
Yeah.
I always make sure I pay attention
Yeah.
to those, you know?
Yeah, and
Those
I
help people make decisions.
I hope so. And not every one is going to resonate with everybody.
Sure.
But, you know, we try to cover a wide swath of things, whether it's technology or parenting things,
Yeah.
health-related things, a lot of money things. I've compared prices on everything over the years.
Oh, and your gas prices stories.
Yeah.
Those are ones that no matter where you are in your stage of life, people are paying attention.
Yeah,
You know?
so, and that's not, you know, people stop me in the grocery store every week and say something and nice, you know, and that's you know, I'm glad they do. They always say, "Oh, I don't want to bother you." Oh, really? It's not a bother.
I know,
you know,
right?
it's not a
And
bother.
like you said, you want to know that somebody's appreciative, or not even appreciative, but using the information
Right, that mattered.
you put out there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, and I have always had tremendous respect for you. Not to get really.
Don't make me cry.
I won't.
Okay.
I won't try anyway.
Okay.
How about that? But you're somebody that you lead by example, but you also know when to draw a line and make people fall in line, which I have loved. You know, I mean, you show us this is what you need to do to get a job done and to do it well.
Well, thank you.
And I think
Yeah.
that all of us have learned from that, whether some people realize it or not.
Well, thank you. I mean, I guess I've always tried to, you know, first get it right.
Yeah.
You know, make it interesting, and then just kind of, you know, carry on, I hope, with integrity and an ounce of class here and there, you know.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
You're an absolute professional, and you're going to be missed a lot.
Thank you. I'll miss you. I'll miss this newsroom. That'll be the weirdest thing. But
Yeah.
but it's time, you know. The things ahead are always better than the things you leave behind. So
Yeah. And I mean, just a vibe of working in a newsroom. It's a weird, unusual place
it is.
to work.
It is.
And we're used to it, right? But I think it sounds cheesy, but I do think there is a sense of family at KSAT. And it doesn't mean we all like our family all of the time. You know, you
Those squabbles.
you love them, you respect them, you appreciate them, and
Sure.
yeah. So a big part of that will be gone when you guys go, but I know we'll stay in touch with you.
Well, and there's some great people. You know, you got to start somewhere, and then sometimes it's just time and pass the torch, kind of cliche, but it's time for me to do something else. But it's also an opportunity for other people who are at different stages of their careers, maybe the middle of their career, maybe just the beginning of their career. And, you know, time marches on. That's the way it is. It's
Yeah.
fine. So,
You've helped us all be critical thinkers, which I think is incredibly important in what we do, but also having that artistry in the way that you do it, you know? Having those little lines that people stop you at the grocery store or call and say, hey, I thought that was really neat.
yeah. Thank you.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you are going to think about when you walk out of this building?
Gosh. No, I mean, just, you know, there's so many stories over the years, and you drive around town and you think, oh, that happened there, and things. I think even more so lately, just thinking things seemed like they were just yesterday on one hand, but then so long ago. You know, the days are long, but the years are short. And it's just been a wonderful experience to be able to go places, see things, meet so many wonderful people, and, you know, and not just famous people, but, you know, extraordinary, ordinary people who have opened their lives and shared, you know, what's going on in their lives, whether it's a happy thing or not a happy thing. And so I'm grateful. I'm just grateful for all the years that this career has given me. And I hope I've given back just a little bit.
You have. And
Thank you.
then some.
Thank you.
Tell that story though before I let you go about the one you told. The one you told us.
We're not done.
Know My Neighborhood, about the couple that was getting married and then the flood happened.
Yes, yes. The flood of '98, when we were all soaking wet, working around the clock, there was out on the east side, I was sent with photographer Tim Stewart. We're out and a church was flooding and a wedding was supposed to be going on. And she was stranded. The bride and the wedding party were at the church and the water was rising and they were stranded. And the groom was frantic and he's out, with the fire department and they've got to rescue them and get a boat. And it was chaotic and scary for them. And it was pitch dark. And so they rescued the wedding party down these fire department rafts would come out and the wedding party's on there and then here comes the bride, and she was,
On a raft?
on a raft, on a boat in the flood waters and the groom rushes out there and they hug and all of that. And that was in '98 and then I think 20 years later or so I caught up with them again. I want to say actually after that we caught up and talked with them and then years later followed up with them. And then just this last fall, their friends wanted to have a surprise party for them, a wedding reception that they didn't have. They never got to have. And so they asked me to help set up the ruse. So I called her and said, oh, we're going to be doing an interview about, the flood of '98 and we're going to be at this location and dress up. And their friends were there to surprise them. So that was neat. Some of these things that just come full circle, and another one of those many, many stories that stick with.
I love that, and the ability to, hang on to people's contact information, and to build that trust that decades later they'll still open up to you, and you're part of their lives.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been one for a while.
Oh my goodness.
No tears.
No tears, none.